European FISM 2024 is now history. Magicians from all over Europe and beyond gathered in San Vincent, Italy for 4 days and 4 nights of magic. The main part of the FISM convention is a competition, so it's a great chance to see what are the current trends in magic and how modern magic is developing. So that's why in this video I will not only tell you about the highlights and the most important things that happened during this wonderful event, but also share my personal impressions and thoughts on the state of modern magic. My name is Alex Romanov, this is Art of Impossible, let's go! This year European FISM was organized by the Masters of Magic and took place in San Vincent, a charming Italian village in a valley with stunning view of the Alps. The main events took place in Bilia Congress Center, a huge 5-star hotel. The main stage was great for lectures and close-up competitions with smaller rooms for side events and a dealer area. Stage galas and stage competition were held in Palais de Saint Vincent, which was about a 15-minute walk from the hotel. The theater and the stage were really nice, but I got assigned a seat which was on the extreme right, so it was a really bad angle, and I actually saw that some magicians were hiding playing cards behind their hands instead of actually making them disappear. So magic is ruined and my life will never be the same again. The lineup of lectures was stellar. David Stone and Danny Ortiz are always crowd pleasers. Even if you have seen them before and know all their gags, it's still always a treat to watch them live. Laurent Piron, the 2022 FISM Grand Prix winner, presented his first ever FISM lecture and shared his process for creating new acts and finding practical solutions for complex effects. One key takeaway for me was that he has been working with a theater director for many years, which proves that having a non-magician perspective can be extremely valuable. Saturday morning started with a lecture from Javier Mortimer. Unfortunately, he could not attend in person and had to stay in Vegas, so it was a Zoom lecture. Javier talked about his success on social media. During the pandemic, he committed to creating more content for social media and it paid off. Now, a significant part of his income comes from digital sources such as ad revenues and sponsorships. His story shows that becoming popular on social media and going viral is not just about luck. It is about committed hard work which you do every day. I was really happy to attend the film screening which had been added to the program just a few weeks before the convention. Lost in Shuffle, a new documentary featuring Sean Farquhar, Alexandre Duvivier, Michael Vincent, Richard Turner and Juan Tamariz. In this documentary, Sean Farquhar goes on a mission to uncover the story behind the playing cards imagery and along the way creates a new magic effect with the help of his magic colleagues. The screening was followed by a Q&A session with the cast and the director John Ornoy. Most probably you will be able to see this film this fall. One of the highlights for me was a lecture by Luis de Matos. He shared stories about the shows that he and his team created during the pandemic. Instead of just doing Zoom shows, they came up with large, innovative projects. One of them was a live stage magic show which people watched on the parking lot while sitting in their cars. I really admire Luis and his passion for the art of magic, and this passion becomes even more evident in the way he shares his stories with the community. Not just sitting there like a star and taking questions from the audience, but actually showing a presentation with detailed pictures, statistics, and even explaining some of his innovative big illusions. Really wonderful. There were several workshops for which one could register for an extra fee, and I treated myself for a 3-hour workshop with Danny Ortiz, which was a great investment even just to see him live up close. Many people say that you have to be Danny Ortiz to perform his material, which I think is not true, because through the years I noticed that usually people say that about magicians whose material is just difficult to perform, like Leonard Green for example. So of course you will not perform Danny's material like Danny because you are not Danny, but learning it and using it in your own show is totally possible, just very difficult. The opening ceremony started with a traditional flag parade and then had an opening show with some really nice acts. For example, Laurent Piron presented his Grand Prix act and also a new act which was called Boxes. In this act, He was sketching and balancing numerous card boxes which were then stacking on top of each other. Topaz performed several acts, including his famous zigzag illusion and a really cool act which featured levitation on a treadmill. And he also closed the show with his one more act, during which he was producing endless amount of loudspeakers from an apparently empty box. Which I think did not make much sense for an audience of magicians, because, well, these are obviously fake loudspeakers. So for me it felt more like a music act rather than a magic act. There were many other shows during the convention. For example, Paco Agrada and Giancarlo Scalia's Tanto show, performed after midnight, was a brilliant example of entertaining, strong, theatrical card magic. So if you have a chance to see these guys somewhere, go see these guys. It's just amazing. Sergio Bini, known as Bustrik, a famous Italian magician and film actor, presented his Professor Bustrik's Flea Circus, an absurd yet deeply meaningful theatrical piece. Despite the small audience, it was an incredible performance that received a well-deserved standing ovation. Armando Lucero performed over 20 close-up shows during the convention. I think he's been working more than anyone else during this event. His idea was to create an intimate close-up experience, and therefore the show was limited always to 20 people, I think, and you had to book in advance, but there were enough shows during the convention so everybody had a chance to see him. And it was really amazing because his unique approach to sleight of hand and misdirection is really something that you have to see live. The final close-up gala on Sunday featured standing ovations for each performer. Hosted by David Stone, it featured acts by Luke Germain, Danny Daortiz, Jackie Yu, Christopher Castellini, and Armando Lucero. Luke Germain deserves a special mention. It seems that in the last years he switched from mentalism to magic, and his approach to creating magic effects is really amazing. As I understood, these were bits from his new show, How to Write a Love Letter, which he's now performing in England. So if you are there and you can travel to Leeds to see his show, do that, it's definitely worth it. During the opening ceremony, Laurent Perron mentioned the idea of Nouvelle Magie, a new approach to creating magic acts which eliminates the magician and focuses on creating a magical story instead. Well, this approach to magic is certainly not new and can be traced back to magic plays which were performed by Devant and Maskelyne at the end of the 19th century in the London Egyptian Hall. But it seems that the term Nouvelle Magie will stick. Indeed, one could see a lot of examples of it during this stage competition. Instead of an omnipotent magician on stage, many acts featured a character that was interacting with magic on stage. For me, it is not that obvious that it is actually the future of magic. Even though the idea of creating a meaningful presentation in itself is really great, there is a very high risk of turning a magic act into a theater with magical effects. The difference is really subtle and was discussed many times before me by David Devant or Darwin Ortiz, and the thing is that many magicians are actually not really good actors. For this reason, some of the acts of this nature that I have witnessed convey the feeling I am playing this character because I wanted to create some sort of theater, but in reality I just wanted to show some magic tricks and was looking for a nice presentation for them. In any case, Nouvelle Magie is certainly a trend and, well, we'll see where it takes us. Now let's talk about the winners. First place in General Magic was won by Nikolai Striebel from Germany, with an act featuring paper planes that were flying around and seemed to be alive. Manipulation acts were overall really strong. Several years ago I had a thought that the objects that magicians use for manipulation remains the same, but magicians move further and further away from their original meaning. For example, manipulators use balls all the time, but they are no longer billiards balls as it used to be. Manipulators still use cards, but they are no longer playing cards. In most cases, they are just blank cards of different colors. And this time I noticed another trend. It seems that manipulators are now trying to find new meaning for these abstract objects. For example, you can use a green card and change its shape so it looks like a tree leaf, and then create an act about nature where making tree leaves appear would make sense. I think this is a really good sign of creativity and magic becoming more and more diverse. 19 years old Maurice Grange from Germany won the first prize in manipulation. His act consisted of two parts. In the first part, he was talking about himself, his passion for manipulation, and how he goes through phases of sadness and depression, and all of that was illustrated by card manipulation, which is a very unusual thing to do, and you really rarely hear manipulator talking, which I think is a great idea. In the second part of his act, he demonstrated some great manipulation accompanied by music. Amazing act, just 19 years old, first prize, well deserved. Comedy magic is, I believe, one of the most difficult categories, because first of all, it's just hard to be funny. And then, in many cases, it's not really clear what we mean when we say comedy magic, because a lot of magic has some elements of comedy in it. And then, as far as I know, FISM does not have a special criteria to evaluate comedy in comedy magic, so it is a really tricky category. But let's leave theoretical discussions apart. The first prize was won by a duo of magicians from Spain, Manolo Acosta and Mindaguillo. I do hope that I pronounced their names correctly. Their act was absolutely fantastic. It felt that it was based on Commedia dell'arte and featured an interaction between two characters, a big, strong, serious magician and his smaller, funny counterpart who keeps ruining the tricks. The act was finished with a really strong illusion in which one of the characters got in a cardboard box and the other angrily put spikes and umbrellas through the box. Spikes were taken out and of course the character was safe, and the act finished with a moment of emotional bonding between two characters. And I think this is exactly what makes a comedy magic act great. It should not be just funny. At some point it should go on a deeper level and touch other emotions as well, not just make us laugh. Look at performances by the greatest clowns, look at the best comedy magic acts in the world. Most of them use humor and laughter as a tool to actually get to some deeper feelings and emotions. I'm going philosophical again, it was just a great act. Grand illusions. One question that I ask myself: why do magicians keep playing and keep using these stereotypes of an alpha male magician on stage surrounded by his half-naked female assistants? Come on, it's 2024. It is not interesting anymore. It is not interesting, it is not original, it is cheesy, it is banal, it is just bad taste. And unfortunately there were a couple of acts of this kind at FISM. But it felt good that none of them got the first prize. In fact, the first prize was not even awarded. But the second prize went to a really good one. Italian magician Alberto Giorgi. He presented a great original act and actually also got the Inventions Award. And this act was really interesting to watch. It had kind of a steampunk aesthetics and featured a scientist that was building a robot. And this act did not have that many magic effects. In fact, it just had 3 main effects, which all happened closer to the end of the act. A giant robot came to life, then the magician disappeared, and then the robot took off his head and it was revealed that magician was inside of the robot. Great stage setting, great story, great act. Mentalism. Sometimes I wonder why as soon as the curtain opens and you're about to see a mentalism act, you know right away that what you see will be a mentalism act. Maybe it's because this atmosphere of a mystery that's being forced upon you. What I want to say by that many acts felt overly dramatic and did not really deliver on the promise, at least for an audience of magicians. But I know and I completely understand that it's very hard to perform mentalism as part of a magic competition. I think that the first prize was a really great choice. It went to a magician from France who performed under the stage name Doc 3J. His act was based on the Back to the Future movie. He played the part of the crazy scientist Doc Brown, apparently, who could not remember what had happened to him, and the spectator had to help him to remember all the details of the accident that had happened. The date of the accident, the time, and the location. I guess you know where it's going. The act ended with the revelation of all this information in the form of a video prediction. There was a video played on a huge screen which featured a remake of a scene from the Back to the Future, and this information was actually built into the scene. So there was this DeLorean car in the video where you could see a panel, and on this panel there was this section where you can see the year and the month, and this was actually the date which this spectator came up with. Really fun, really great, and I, as someone who is involved in video production and special effects, can only send a virtual high five to this person behind the stage who was doing some really great work. First prize in Micromagic went to Vova from Russia, who performed a routine based on dice stacking, something that you really do not see that often nowadays. Dice were changing colors, the cup kept appearing and disappearing, his neck scarf also changed colors, and there was a cool finale featuring a picture by the famous graffiti artist Banksy. It was very fresh, very well performed. Congratulations to Vova. Piero Venezia from Italy got the first prize in Parlor Magic. As someone said afterward, he had a background in theater, and one could actually see that in his act. He performed a needle-swallowing act, and even though it might not sound that exciting when I say it, it was really good. Perfect, minimalist stage setup with attention to all the details, and a great choice of music. Piero swallowed plenty of needles, a wine cork, a cigarette, some thread, and then produced everything in a reversed order. For me, the perfect word to describe this act would be mesmerizing. You just enjoy watching him, and you are really interested in what would happen next. This is what good parlor magic should look and feel like. The first prize in card magic was not awarded, and the second prize went to Robin DeVille from France. In his act, he was switching between two characters, Mr. Blue and Mr. Red, so it was kind of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde story. If he drank red potion, he would become Mr. Red, and if he drank blue potion, he would become Mr. Blue. As you can imagine, the playing cards were also constantly changing colors, from blue to red and from red to blue, and there were plenty of other really strong visual effects with cards, and the act ended with a card to impossible location. Card signed by spectator was found under the tablecloth. Modern card magic act flawlessly executed. Grand Prix was not awarded this time because none of the competitors reached the score of 85 points, which is the minimum that you have to get to be able to qualify for the Grand Prix awards. But I'm almost certain that next year, 2025, in July, in Turin, during the World FISM convention, we will witness the new Grand Prix winner of the World Championship of Magic. That's it! If you've been to the European FISM, then let me know in the comments what were your impressions, if you agree or disagree with me, and if you haven't been there, let me know if this was interesting at all for you, and if I should do more of event reviews on this channel. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Alex Romanov. This was Art of Impossible. I will see you next time.